Live from the playoffs, we welcome race fans one and all back to Green Flag TV, where tonight we get set to duke it out around the action track. It is, of course, the first race of a playoff bid for the top 10 of the ASRL NextGen Cup Series. Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to this tape-delayed show from Sunday's race. My name is Will Rempel alongside Josh Baird. We are bringing you all of the action here this afternoon from start to finish. Josh, it is Richmond. It is, of course, a track that has long been known to provide some excellent racing, and it is the sister track to Iowa that we saw earlier on in the season. Now, Iowa threw a lot of curveballs at us with fuel strategy. Do you reckon we'll be seeing the same here this afternoon?
I think that Richmond's got more of a traditional sense to it, so I'm not quite sure we'll see the exact same thing we saw at Iowa, but it does bring up a good point that this has been such a huge crescendo leading up into this point now where we are in the playoffs. So I'm really excited to see what these guys have in store for us tonight.
It is a three-race grudge match to the end of the season, and the top 10 in the points have been fully reset. Let's take a look at those drivers in the top 10 in points now, or at least in just a moment. But I can tell you right now, Hunter Engrave still remains, I think, the favorite to win race in action here this afternoon as we bring those top 10 points up on screen. Hunter Engrave still going to be pretty far up there, right? I mean, and this is, of course, before that points reset. But Engrave, of course, with Schlosser, Hege, Van Leer, Ellison, Cook, Rutherford, both Rutherfords, Gunter and Zittel all getting in and ready to absolutely go to town on this field. These were the point standings before we enter the final race at Michigan just a week ago, and these are the championship standings here after that points reset. Engrave still up by 5.
Engrave has got a really good time ahead of him. I think he's had a very promising season so far, being in the right place at the right time, and I think he'll continue that throughout this playoff standings. But some of these other guys, I think, are going to try and give him a run for his money. I think Joshua Hege's on a kind of a positive incline right now, and maybe some of the Rutherford guys will get their opportunity to find some extra points where they need it as well to try and climb those standings. So I don't think I could really go ahead and say this is a clear-cut finish, but I think we're going to be in for a treat for the rest of this season.
Of course, at the Iowa Speedway, there were only 3 yellow flags on the afternoon, and Hunter Engrave did lead a huge chunk of laps there. He led 8 laps, right? And Brody Gunter led the most at 65, tied with Anthony Propp for the most laps led. But Engrave with that fuel strategy, right? He won by 3 seconds. So these short tracks are clearly where Engrave can really thrive. This could be a huge launch for him to get himself onto the top of the points boards.
Yeah, I think coming into Richmond and having this less than 1 mile oval experience is going to be great for him to get that early launch into this playoff run. So we got some track variation coming out through these playoffs. So I think we're going to end up seeing some different guys that have their different skill sets, which makes this championship even more exciting because of the fact that you will need to be more versatile than just having a one-track specialty.
16 cars have put down qualifying laps to make the start here this afternoon. And among those, it looks like Brody Gunter could very well be taking away the provisional pole at the top of the field. So could we see Gunter mounting a charge for that championship bid as well? We'll find out in just a moment. As qualifying, we'll see the checker flag fly on this 10-minute session. And with that, it is time to get this show on the road for the main event here this afternoon. 200 laps getting set to kick off. Brody Gunter's on the pole with Hunter Engrave down in the number 2 spot beside him on the front row. Matt Schlosser is in 3rd with Andy Poliski sitting it up back in 4th. Paul Ellison starts at the number 5 spot with Corey Rutherford in 6th. And Aim Morris is 7th. Jan Villiers is 8th. Rene Garcia and Joshua Hege round out the top 10.
11th is Brantley Gainey with 12 being Alex Howland. 13th is Tommy Cook, and 14th is Joshua Rutherford. 15th is Gerald Williams, and 16th is Kyle Zittel. And that rounds out your 16-car field for tonight.
So 16 cars just waiting on Gainey to grid on up, and then we'll get this show on the road. Engrave, we talked about him, of course, being a favorite to win the championship here on this absolutely beautiful afternoon. But there are quite a few other drivers here that could very well be looking to throw some wrenches into the works. You look, of course, to the eminent Signia Graphics Incorporated, or also known as the 420 Motorsports machine, of Rene Garcia, right? He is another one of those drivers that put up some moves early on. Unfortunately for him, I don't think was able to make it into the top 10 here this afternoon, so he is going to be finding himself watching from the outset. He enters this race 13th in the points, but I think Matt Schlosser could very well be one of those drivers that puts himself in with a good run. Schlosser has really impressed me on how he has improved over the course of the season. I'm pegging this 400 car here to be a solid title contender.
Yeah, Schlosser, I think, is going to be another great contender tonight. And I think going back to Rene Garcia as well brings up another good point, that just because they're out of contentions for the playoff doesn't mean that they're not out of contention to win a race. So you'll see those guys pushing just as hard to try and earn those race wins, even though they are out for the season, because that's great momentum that you can get going into next season if you come away with a race win. And Rene Garcia has found himself in the top 5 over 50% of his races so far this season. So you got to imagine that a guy like that could also be a contender to throw a wrench in this championship and try and upset some of these guys that are sitting on the leaderboard.
Don't forget the 099 of Joshua Higgy either enters this race 3rd place in the points and only 10 out from Hunter Engrave. The 099 finished in a very quiet 3rd place for the regular series point standing, so he could also be one of those sleepers that could mount a big charge later in the race. Higgy starting from 10th outside of row number 5. For now, Brody Gunter going to lead the way in the 510 Racing Mustang as pace car pulls down into pit road. We're happy that you're joining us here on what'll be a Tuesday night tape delay broadcast. Great flag is out. We are racing at the action track. Gunter leads lap number 1, but already you can see Hunter Engrave trying to hunt down the inside, down to that turn number 1. The 49 trying to gun for it, while Gunter is up on top.
Yeah, these guys
Whoa,
are
look
doing a
out!
great job.
Paul Ellison spins in the back. He's going to go around, and no caution for that. We're going to keep that green, but Ellison loose off turn 2.
Not a great start coming out of turn number 2, but that is a common problem that's here at Richmond, that transition and that wall getting tight. You oversteer just a little bit, as we saw a wiggle for Engrave coming out of the corner there on turn number 2 as well. So I think it's going to catch a lot of these guys out tonight, especially as those track temperatures cool down a little bit.
Cooling track temps is, of course, going to be the name of the game here this afternoon. Right now, the battles are pretty tucked up line astern. The top 3 run single file, and those, of course, whoa, now Corey Rutherford spins around hard into the inside wall, and that, I do believe, will bring out the first yellow flag of the night as the field works out a turn number 4. Did not take long for us to get that first caution flag, and are we really surprised? It's the action track, it's Iowa. It's never an easy track to get around. Well,
yeah,
it's
I
Richmond.
think yeah, I think with these, you know, the one thing that I think they improved on with Iowa as it came after Richmond was the deeper banking. This is a little more flat banking, so that requires quite a bit more wheel input, which can also cause some issues coming out of that corner, and that seems like that wall tends to catch up on you pretty quickly. So I think we're going to see a lot of guys tonight that are going to struggle coming out of turn number 2. The other thing that's cool about Richmond is there's so many grooves that actually work for this track for these guys. So we'll see a lot of guys be able to ride side by side for multiple laps.
Rene Garcia coming down into pit road, and you had managed to see the whole incident up on screen, right? I mean, Corey Rutherford just got loose out of the corner and slid down, and that was a pretty hefty leg that he took into the inside wall, and that is not what you want to see for a driver that is gunning for a championship run here. And it looks like he is still in the car, so intending on getting back out there on the racetrack, but now sits 1 lap down. He is hoping for a caution to get himself back up into contention. Rutherford entered this championship 7th place in the points and 30 out of Engrave. He cannot afford a mistake like this with only 3 races left to go.
Yeah, that's not a great start, especially when you're coming right out of the playoffs. You kind of want a strong start. So Having an issue this early on, hopefully he can put it behind him quickly and have a great finish here, because you really don't have much time in this playoff championship to be able to recover from mistakes like that. So we'll have to see how he can respond to that adversity.
I believe 2 laps here before we get set to go for green flag racing. We're gonna pick it up though in 2 weeks. They do have a 1-week break, I believe, for Memorial Day weekend coming on up here next Sunday, and then it'll be the Texas Motor Speedway to play host to the 2nd playoff race on the schedule for the ASRL NextGen Cup Series. And then, of course, the season finale just 1 week later on June 9th on a racetrack that is still TBD, or I guess more TBA. It's been determined, but it's just to be announced at this point in time, which they will do, I believe, the week before we have that championship race. But it's going to be exciting, right? Because, I mean, this is going to be one of the biggest title fights I think we'll be seeing in a while here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I know that you and I may know the track at this point, and we'll keep it hush-hush, but I think that we are in for an action-packed finish with Texas Motor Speedway, and then that following week in the championship. I think we're just going to have a lot of fun to see how these guys are able to respond to not knowing the track right off the bat, and then having to be able to adapt to what that track is going to bring for them and be able to overcome with the championship. So with only just a handful of races left, they're really going to have their hands full if they're going to try and make for the run for the championship, and they're going to have to earn it for sure.
Corey Rutherford still sitting in pit road trying to get extensive damage repairs on that Mullet Music Productions number 5 Camaro. And I have to be a little bit more concerned if that is going to be terminal damage for him. You also see Paul Ellison down in pit road as well for the Advanced Auto Parts Mustang. Now, Ellison, for him, this is his 2nd trip down pit road. He is trying desperately to get whatever damage fixed he can without going down too many laps. But it's a very hard task to do when you have so little time to work on a short track like this.
It's very tough in a track like this because of the fact that you can get put many laps down pretty early on. So you want to try and maximize your opportunities out on the track. And right now, Corey Rutherford's 4 laps down with Paul Ellison and 5 laps down. I think that's going to be a tough task for them to overcome for the rest of this race. But we are getting ready to go under green once again here at lap number 10 here at Richmond.
Pre-flight back up and in the air. We hop back to it as the field is going to get itself up and rolling on what was a great launch right off the hitch there from Brody Gunter. Matt Schlosser picks up the number 2 spot. Hunter Angrave slipping back to 3rd. A lot of loose moments in cars behind as they rip it off of turn number 2 and down the backstretch.
Too wide and a couple deep here, and looks like we even got somebody up on that high line trying to see if they can make that high line work as well. It's going to be interesting to see where these guys can find the grip, especially as the temperature begins to fall and stretch out. They're stretching out single file up here towards the front.
Driving in deep into turn numbers 3 and 4. Joshua Hege really working to the outside line here, trying to see if he can pick off Nate Morris up the road. We got 2 into the outside wall just behind, but no yellow flag. They'll keep it going straight. Nate Morris still battling it out with that 099 up top. Right now, Hege looking like he wants to charge, and Dan Villier in the way. Look out, Polinsky starting to go around, and the 32 with a close shave. He'll keep it off the inside wall.
Yeah, really loose move there by him, and great job to be able to save it. We've seen 2 of his competitors so far tonight not be able to do the same thing, and then they end up on the inside wall and their day's done. For Hege, though, I think he's going to have to press it a little bit closer down into those guys to force them to lift off and lose their momentum coming out of the corner. With him giving them that much gap right there, they're just able to keep their line perfectly normal, and then he is not going to be able to compete very well being that high up on the track.
Hunter Angrave 2 laps ago set the fast lap of the race with a 21.95, showing he's still got a lot of pace underneath him, and he wants to go for that title run. Jan Van Leer, Nate Morris, Joshua Hege all still under a blanket for 4th on back. And these are drivers that are not going to be able to break away from each other easily. They call it the action track for a reason, right? It's because it's so difficult to try and break away from a battle pack like this.
It's crazy, especially when you can have competitors like this, and you'll see 4, 5, 6 laps of them going side by side because there's so many options. We got guys spinning around on the track.
And that'll be yellow flag number 2. Tommy Cook involved. Gerald Williams involved. Looking like Brandon Gainey Jr. caught a piece. Rene Garcia having to let drivers through. Alex Howland is making up some spots, so it looks like he may have had to check up to avoid getting involved in that. But yellow flag number 2 on the speedway. Let's take a look at what happened. Coming off of turn number 2, it looked like the 24 got loose. Jared Williams goes into the outside wall, checks up, and nowhere for Cook to go, and a huge hit as well for Brandon Gainey Jr. And Rene Garcia just fired through around the outside. But that's a sizable impact for a couple of cars there on just what was the 14th lap of the race.
Gerald Williams coming out of this corner here gets a little loose and then snaps over steer. And it looks like they just had nowhere to go at that point. Spins out, collects, Tommy collects another driver as well, and going to be an early end to their runs tonight, as they're going to have to take a lot of damage repairs to fix that.
So yet another another caution early on, right? I mean, this is not something that is too uncommon over here at a track like the Richmond Raceway, right? It's very common to get incidents like these. Now, we do have cars that did come down and into pit road, but looking like fuel only for the most part all throughout. Gunter, Endray, Poliski, Zittel, Higi, Rutherford, Garcia, Van Leer, all staying out, along with Nate Morse. Well, sorry, they don't stay out. They went on fuel-only strategies. Yen Van Leer, Alex Howland took tires. Gainey Williams and Cook are in for damage repairs. Matt Lawson now off cycle by a little bit on the fuel window by about 16 laps. He's the lone driver to stay out.
Well, with the fuel, we kind of learned from Iowa Speedway the importance of making sure that you have proper fuel and timing it right when it comes to the end of the race, or else it can cause a lot of problems. And so we'll have to see if this is an appropriate move for Matt or not. The one question I had about the fresh tires is we are only 18 laps in with a handful of cautions already, so I didn't feel like the tires had enough degradation to warrant replacing them. But then again, they may be thinking long term here that they want to get some nice clean tires while everybody else is struggling on their more worn tires, maybe gain a few positions for later on in the race.
You know, I agree with that, right? I don't think it's worth it taking a set of tires now. It's only going to hurt you in the long run. Now, I know Van Leer and Howland are both out on a fresh set, but that advantage is not going to last indefinitely here. Not to mention, it means they got one less set to work with if we get a late race caution even further down the line.
Yeah, I think one of the other possibilities is too, and this is something that's happened to me quite a bit in iRacing, is you forget to uncheck the tires, or you just don't have a capability to get them removed quickly without you know, sitting there trying to click around on the black box while you're trying to keep the car straight on the track. So could have been a possibility there that they just didn't want to bother with unchecking the tires, but if it's their strategy to try and get fresh tires this early on the race, we'll have to see if it pays off for them.
Match Lawson picking the outside for the restart. That's not entirely uncommon here at Richmond. If you can get a good jump for the outside and clear that bottom lane, you're able to get quite a good arcing line through turn 1 that is so desperately needed to keep up that momentum drive. We'll see if it'll be the same situation here for Schlosser as he works his way out of turn numbers 3 and 4 into the restart zone. Launching early, there it goes, taking off, and we are back to green flag racing from the Richmond Raceway. Schlosser clear down into turn number 1.
Yeah, that looked like a Denny Hamlin jump at Richmond just a couple of weeks ago. It was nice and early, and it got everybody else off guard, so that'll give him a chance to... Oh, Zengrave gets really close into the back of the guy in front of him.
Angrave nearly running into Poliski just up the road for the number 32 car as he makes that drive down to turn number 1. And once again, the field on a fairly good charge up the road. There's a few cars. Oh, hello. Looked like Tommy Cook getting up into the outside wall, but some drivers kind of switching around for positions. Joshua Hegan to the inside of Joshua Rutherford. And the 099 is up another spot, and the yellow flag is out. So we got another caution up on the racetrack here. So that's 3 yellows now in just over 20 laps. They're racking them up pretty quickly over here at Richmond.
Yeah, this is interesting. We'll have to see. I think maybe with the sun going down, the track cooling off a little bit. I don't think they're quite as ready uh, to be experienced with this loose condition that everybody seems to be struggling with coming out of turn number 2. So we'll have to see if these guys can start getting it under them. You still have a lot of laps left, so we'll have to see if they can start figuring out how to make that turn 2 work for them.
So taking a look at the yellow flag, Paul Ellison driving it in deep, and oh man, just lost the back end coming down to the corner, overcorrected when he hit the apron. Car snaps back, and man, that's a heavy shot for Nate Morris and sent Ellison hard into the outside wall, and that is why we now see him down in pit road and very much out of the game. That's bad news for one of your main championship contenders.
Not a great start to his playoff run here. But another thing you got to think about too with these fixed setups is the brake bias, and it looks like he may have went a little too far forward on that brake bias and just got down and collected in there. Especially as these conditions get a little cooler tonight, these guys are probably gonna have to start thinking about, should I back up my brake bias a little bit so I'm not locking up those front tires entering into the corner.
On board with Ellison here, and we'll get a good look. I think you're right. I think that brake bias set a bit too far to the rear, but not a pleasant sight to put that 55 car out of contention early on. We're going to take a break. When we return, it's the restart from the action track.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
So green flag getting set to come back out in the air, this time by iRacing pace car. Will pull down into pit road, and we get set to duke it out once again. Green flag is out. We are back to racing. And Matt Schlosser on a good getaway from the field. Brody Gunther down in second. Poliski, Engrave bring it up in third and fourth. And third two car making an early charge back to the third position.
Poliski having a really good night so far, all the way up to third position. I think he's trying to get in there and throw a wrench in the playoff contention for the playoff contenders by coming away with the win. I know he's had really good ability so far this season to put himself in some prime position. So it's tough that he's not out there fighting for a playoff spot at this point.
It's been tough to see him so far down. I mean, Poliski has been a very consistent driver whenever we see him on the racetrack. He's always been one of those guys that is up towards the front of this field, and well, the thing that caught him out, I think, was the fact that he missed one of the races. Had he not done that, who knows where he might be today. But for now, he is just battling for some last bit of glory. He is the only thing that is breaking up the top 7 from all being playoff drivers.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight to try to see if he can maintain that position, showing that he's earned it so far this season to have himself up there in the third position. Oh, as it looks like we got the 0-1 car of Gunter looking down to the inside of Schlosser going through turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, Matt Schlosser with a huge bobble there coming off of turn number 2. Brody Gunter saw the opportunity and went for it down the inside at turn 3. Took the lead away in style. Engrave now working the top side. Poliski still on the bottom and looking like Engrave finally secures that third place position up the road. Good show from the 49. Now he's got the 400 car directly in front one of the drivers that could very well prove to be an underdog here in the championship.
Yeah, Slosher and Engrave are obviously, and Gunter are guys that have been fighting towards the front all season. So once again, they find themselves up here one more time to try and get that championship, as Engrave is looking down to the inside, just barely got his nose ahead, but it looks like, oh, and Slosher catches the wall coming out of fourth.
Little tap of the wall, gets it back rolling though, and for Matt Schlosser on a big charge now at the head of this field, as Andy Poliski trying to see what he can do to make that run for the fourth place position. Turning now lap 35 of 200 this afternoon, and this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, right? We're starting to enter the middle portions of this race. How long before these drivers start to realize there's still a long way to go and tame it down just a little bit and maybe dial down the aggression?
Yeah, they're going to have to, because it looks like we are setting ourselves up for some green flag running right here. So this actually may be one of those points in the strategy where those guys with the 18-lap old tires thought they were going to get a little green flag stint in here. So maybe that's the call that they were thinking about as they went and got those tires, and we might see those guys on those fresher tires start making their way up the field as the degradation kicks in.
Checking back in on the battle between Joshua Rutherford and Alex Howland. Howland, of course, just barely avoiding one of those cautions earlier on. While further up the road, Higgy making a look to the inside of Kyle Zittel. So Higgy wants to improve in his positioning, and he is now trying to work his way into a top 5.
Iggy doing a great job on that bottom side. I saw a little wiggle from him coming out of turn number 2, but he's able to hold his own, as it looks like Engrave's deciding he wants to take the lead away from Brody Gunter.
Hunter Engrave to the bottom of Brody Gunter, takes that top spot away. You know, what a good drive there for the 49 to make that move on Gunter as they drove it in deep into turn number 3, made the pass, made it stick. And as well as that, Joshua Higgy gets up in a 5th around Kyle Zittel.
Great job of Higgy getting into 5th position to get around Kyle Zittel. I think Kyle Zittel looks like he might be settling back a little bit further now, but he's going to have to keep trying to get that position back, because he's also in contention for the playoffs. So every little point matters at this point. So you really have to push to try and gain as much advantage as you can going into the final 2 races of the season.
And on board with Alex Howland as well, now with Joshua Rutherford. Rutherford has got to look out because he's got that number 2 car on the inside, and Howland wants to go. You can take a look there in that side-by-side grudge match all the way down the front straightaway. They make that pretty sizable look, getting down and in towards turn numbers 1 and 2. Still to abreast, but the Valvoline Mustang will finally get up and clear.
Great job by Howland to get around him there. Ooh, as he goes deep on the brakes and nearly creates contact with his opponent there, but they were able to get that sorted out cleanly, so good job by them.
Bit of a 4-car scrap here. Howland, Rutherford, Garcia, and Gainey all under a blanket for 8th through 11th. It's a big charge right now that they're trying to make for themselves, 1/5 of the way into this race, and so far the 64 looking like it might be on the backslide. That's not good news for Joshua Rutherford, a driver that needs to have some good luck if he wants to contend for a title.
Yeah, we got 2 guys already, and one in the pits and one is out that's in the playoff contention, so it's going to be big trouble for those guys, and Rutherford is the last guy in the playoff contention that is, still out on the track, so he really doesn't want to be that guy that's going to be finishing in the lowest position here at Richmond with the playoffs coming to a head.
And then, of course, you got Jan van Leer under fire from... Kyle Zittel under fire from Jan van Leer. Is Van Leer going to cut to the inside? It's been a long couple of days. Is Van Leer going to make his way to the inside? Picks off the spot. So the number 8 car up to 6th. Zittel down to the 7th. As the rest of the pack continues to slice and dice, trying to make up whatever spots can be mustered, as right now Van Leer starting to pull away with that 6th place spot.
Yeah, Van Leer, I think, was one of the guys that took tires, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe his tires are finally lighting up and showing that advantage over the worn tire drivers.
You are correct. He and Alex Howland were the only two drivers that took tires under those latest yellow flags, but I still question the wisdom in taking a set of tires this early on. You need to have those in the back pocket for later on in this race if you do get that late race yellow that these drivers might be trying to seek for. This so far has been the longest green flag run of the night thus far. And this battle between Howland, Rutherford, and Garcia has not gone away. Alex Howland, I think it says a lot about how, I'm trying to be nice here, but about how fruitless it was to take a fresh set of tires when you're being held in check by a driver that's running on 40, almost 50 lap old tires now.
Yeah, that's the hard part about trying to decide when to take tires, right? Is if you're going to be stuck in traffic, you're really wasting that opportunity to be able to get as many green flag laps as you can on your opponent. So this is going to be one of the things we're going to see him struggle with as he decided to take those tires so early on. But we saw from Van Leer, it's also an opportunity to gain some positions in these late run green flag green flag runs.
Of course, Garcia and Gainey also are standing in as well. As bit of a twitch there for Garcia. Joshua Rutherford driving down deep in turn numbers 3 and 4, and now that's going to cause Rutherford to slip up the track. Here comes Garcia looking to the inside. I think Rutherford got too greedy there trying to go for the spot, and now he's under heavy fire from the 74.
Yeah, that was a great job to sneak his car down on the inside there to take advantage of a little bit of a mistake there by the opponent in front of him. So we'll see if he can capitalize on that mistake as he's coming out of turn number 3 and 4 side by side.
Down in turn number 1, can Garcia make the pass stick? Joshua Rutherford still hangs on up top. He's going to get around him, and now Gainey going to follow through as Rutherford slips up. So Rutherford now on the backslide. And that's going to leave Gainey and Garcia in the battle of their own to try to see who can come out on top in this little fight for position. And right now, Hunter Engrave a second clear from Gunter, who is almost a second clear from Schlosser. So the top 3 all pulling away from each other. The closest fight within the top 5 is for 4th and 5th, separated by half a second.
Yeah, we'll have to see what these guys can do here now that we're getting a little bit later on in this run. We're going to start seeing their ability to handle these cars as the handling conditions begin to change on them. You got the temperatures of the track cooling down plus the worn tires. We might see some guys beginning to struggle.
I think now the big question that a lot of these drivers have, and what we have as well, when do you come down to pit road? We saw a few green flag pit stops at the Iowa Speedway. I'm probably thinking we'll be seeing them in before halfway.
Yeah, I'm curious what the tire degradation seems to do for their lap times. I haven't really been able to do my homework to see what a degradation for a tire looks at over a run. But I would imagine that you would want to try and go early on in this race. You want to try and go for the overcut. Make sure you're out there as long as humanly possible to give yourself more options to be able to make decisions later on in the race.
Watch the variation in lines between Joshua Hickey and Andy Poliski up the road, looking like, okay, well, as they follow the exact same line there, but I mean, you see how much Hickey's able to run him down on corner entry, but Poliski just parks himself in the middle of the track up in turn 2, prevents Hickey from following through to go for a pass, and that's why now we see Hickey starting to back off. He's trying to set him up for a run on the 32.
That was a good job to set him up for a run. I'm surprised we didn't see a little bit more momentum coming out of that corner. But the other thing you have to think of too is with your opponents struggling to identify how to handle these cars through the grip, through the corners, it's going to make it a little more difficult to pass as well. As it looks like the 32 goes really high through 3 and 4 there. I don't know if that was an attempt to block the 99 of Hickey. Poliski deciding he wanted to try out the high line to see if he can find some grip.
I think that was just a miscalculation in braking point. He overshot turn 1. That's going to allow Hickey to attack and make the pass for the 4th place spot. Poliski looked like he was trying to think about a run back down the inside of turn 3, but it wasn't going to happen though. And Hickey is now up to 4th. Got a battle further down in the field as well. Side by side, Rene Garcia trying to attack Howland.
Rene Garcia on Howland in this. Oh, as he touches his rear bumper coming into the corner. So a little bit of late braking there by Garcia. Creates a little bit of uneasy attempt by his opponent there, but he was able to collect it, and now he's just going to drop back.
And for Gainey, as they both slip up, he's going to say, well, 2 free spots. Thank you very much. Don't mind if I do. Takes those and fires off in the Camaro and is now clear down to turn 1 for the 8th spot. So I know Gainey's not going to complain about a couple of extra positions.
That's exactly how you want to handle situations like that. You don't always have to get up there and try and race the tires off your opponent. Sometimes you just sit back and wait for that mistake to happen, and then you can capitalize on that and usually gain 2 positions out of it. So good job by Gainey for being patient to allow that to take place and then be able to take away 2 spots from it.
139 laps to go with the line as racing action continues on from the Richmond Raceway. Garcia, Rutherford, Howland, all going line astern. Further up the road, Kyle Zittel struggling to keep Gainey behind. Right now, a lot of the battles really are for about 7th on back. Again, the only battle that's up in the top 5 is this one for 4th and 5th, Kahiki and Poliski. Otherwise, everything is in this little battle cluster.
Yeah, it's been good so far, and seeing these guys stretch out is going to cause some green flag running, and we always love those green flag pit stops because it always shakes up the leaderboard. So we'll have to see here pretty soon. I think I have trouble remembering. Do you remember how many laps they can go on a green flag stint?
I'd have to consult Iowa, honestly. That would be the closest example, but I cannot recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, I feel like it should be like 60 or 70 laps. So maybe we'll see it around 80 or 90. They'll start pitting to try and top off on fuel here. Obviously, once we get the first set of green flag stops, we'll finally get to understand that, and that'll help us shape the picture of how the rest of this race is going to run.
You can see right now a lot of the lap times hovering at about 22, the last lap's up at about, 23, 22 second lap times. The best lap times, though, are in the low 22 seconds. So we've dropped off by at least half a second on overall pace every single lap here. So that, again, goes to show that these tires, when you start to get deep into the race, they do have some pretty significant impacts that you have to consider. Gainey, you saw get around Zittel. This 3-way scrap between Howland, Garcia, and Rutherford is closing. I think Howland right now is a cork in the bottle.
Yeah, it seems like Howland is creating problems for Garcia, and looks like right there he just gets enough to the outside, and Garcia is able to dive down in there and finally get a nose past him. And it looks like Rutherford's going to take that open door as well.
So the Valvoline Mustang going to sweep wide and allow for 2 drivers to take up spots. That bumps Howland outside of the top 10. 12 cars remain on the lead lap. Your race leader is just coming off of turn number 2 that last time by, so not far away for putting another chunk of lap down. Right now, the main drivers that are laps down are all damaged, including Jarrell Williams, Nate Morris, Corey Rutherford and Paul Ellison, both involved in pretty significant incidents earlier in this race. The only 2 drivers that are down and out. Paul Ellison, of course, brought out our 3rd caution of the race. And Corey Rutherford is self-spun early on. It looks like he has decided to call it quits. He's been in the pits for the last 12 minutes.
I don't think that there was a ton he could have done to recover from that. I think there was going to be some steering and suspension damage for him, so it would have been a really tough race for him. And not to mention that him and Ellison, both the 2 guys that are out, are both 2 guys that were supposed to be competing for playoff victories. So that's really going to put a huge wrench in their attempt to go ahead and win the championship. They're going to have really strong outings the next 2 races and expect their opponents to have the opposite. So not out at this point because it's so early on in the championship race, but man, it's going to be a tough hurdle to climb at this point.
Oh, absolutely. It is going to be brutal for these drivers to try and see that they can fight their way to the front and see who's going to come out on top of all of this. We got cars at the pit road. Matt Schloss, the first one to come down. Here we go. Green flag pit stops right about on cue.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were kind of expecting to see. 60, 70, 80 laps is what I was expecting to see from this track. So Slosher going to decide the undercut here. We'll have to see if this one pays off for him, as we have Engrave out there on the track still turning laps.
Hunter Engrave still out on the racetrack, and Schlosser is going to go for full tires and fuel. Nate Morris is also into pit road, the number 25 just behind. And Josh Rutherford and Alex Howland looking like they want to gun it up there as well. So a solid drive for him, as all of these guys looking set to start pulling away.
Okay, so we're at about, what we said, it was about 18 laps when everybody topped off with fuel for the last time, and it was lap 68 about when Higgy came down. So, you know, I think if we start using the calculator and calculating back, we'll start getting a clearer picture of what's going to happen here tonight. But I'd like to see how long we can get Engrave to stay out there. He's kind of an overcut guy, so I think we'll be able to find out exactly what is going to happen with this green flag strategy.
I agree, right? We gotta, I think, figure out how things are gonna pan out for the green flag strats, and it's gonna take a little bit before we really start to see how this will all pan out for the drivers on the racetrack. Jared Williams, the next one to come down into pit road. So right now, Schlosser, the first driver, in relatively early. Now, this is something that I do remember from Iowa, seeing quite a few cars pitting way early, trying to set themselves up for the last stop of the afternoon, rather than just running that out dry on the first.
Yeah, I think being able to, you know, cautions is one of the huge things that are totally unpredictable factors, but if you can start dialing around and counting backwards from the race end, that's the best way you can set yourself up for success in these long run scenarios. So undercutting is, like I said earlier, it's a little bit of a problem, because then you're kind of forcing yourself into a hole, and when you overcut, it gives you more flexibility later on in the race.
Take a look at the battle between Kyle Zittel and Rene Garcia, scrapping it out for that 7th position now on the racetrack and continuing to make stuff happen. Garcia, remember, not a contender in the playoff field, but still going to make the pass anyway, bumps Zittel down. That is always an important thing, and a challenging thing to note is, oh my gosh, I thought for sure he was just going to wreck off a turn number 4, but it's complicated, right? Because, I mean, you have to always be considerate of the fact that while these drivers aren't fighting for the championship, they still have their own positions that they're scrapping it out for in the points as well, back in the regular series, outside of the playoff field. And they are just as entitled to finish those battles as everyone else is. So that's always the struggle as a playoff driver, right? Trying to respect those battles while making sure that you don't lose too much time in your battles of your own.
Yeah, I mean, as a driver myself, I always, you know, forget about the championship in the race. My race is my race at that every weekend. You know, the championship's just a byproduct of how hard you race every race. So I don't think Rene Garcia is sitting there trying to decide, is this a championship guy or is this not a championship guy? He's out there trying to beat everybody. So we'll have to see if he continues this way. Right now he's sitting pretty happily in 6th, and so I think he can use that momentum going into next season. So I think you're going to see these guys out here, even not in the championship, they're going to just go ahead and race their race because they want to set themselves up with a good momentum run going into next season.
Hunter Engrave, the race leader, is down into pit road. So this is going to be pretty interesting now to see how this is all going to pan out with Brody Gunter, the 510 Racing drivers in, just in front of Alex Howland. Could have been checked up a little bit there on the entry to pit road. So pulling up the track map over here, top right of your screen, you'll be able to track the battle for the net race lead. Right now, Hunter Engrave just leaving pit road. He is up in turn 2, sitting 8th place as it stands on the racetrack. And Brody Gunter, pile in the green, is down on the inside. He is in pit road and getting fresh tires and fuel. Meanwhile, Hunter Engrave already coming around the front straightaway. And I'm sure Engrave is going to easily clear Gunter before he can even get close to launching out of pit road.
Yeah, it looked like he got around him before he even left his stall. Oh, as we got a nice wiggle coming out of turn number 2 for the 53, but Hunter Engrave had obviously a great stop to be able to get that kind of jump on his opponents. Now with Looks like almost a one-lap lead on his opponents that took nearly the same amount of time as him.
Garcia and Cook both into pit road as well. They were running third and fourth before their entry into the pits. And sorry, Garcia was running up in second before his pit entry. And now started to tumble through the field. I believe we are now just waiting on Joshua Rutherford to come down to pit road. And then we'll be in full lockstep into the rest of this race. And has the yellow flag just come out? Yes, it has. Caution is out on the speedway right in the middle of pit stops.
This is going to be such an interesting dynamic on how this is going to shake up the field, so I'm curious to see what happened.
Joshua Rutherford had yet to pit. He is into the race lead, and that's going to trap, I think, 7th on back a lap down. This is about to get real interesting here. Rutherford is into pit road. And Schlosser up there now with the, well, Joshua Rutherford showing as the race leader still, but it will be Schlosser with a few cars in front. So appearing like the caution brought out by the 49 of Hunter Engrave. Taking a look here as he slides. Oh, he's already losing it down in the turn one and kicks the back end down, swings that thing around, and he's going to back that one into the wall. Or will he? You know what? I don't think he actually touched.
Absolutely miracle save by Hunter Engrave. That was beautiful that he was able to keep that off the wall. That's the kind of thing you need when you make a mistake in a playoff run. You need the odds to fall in your favor, because that could have went devastating for him, and that would have been a huge upset to the playoff running. But now I think the huge question is going to be is what's going to happen next, because a lot of people got trapped a lap down there.
Right now, I'm showing 9 cars still scored on the lead lap. Schlosser, Gunter, Higi, Poliski, Rutherford, Engrave, Van Leer, Garcia, and Gainey. Tommy Cook on back, I'm showing scored a lap down. Now, for Tommy Cook, this is not ideal. He is the first car that is behind Matt Schlosser, so he's going to be forced at the tail end. Meanwhile, for 2 drivers, in particular Rene Garcia and Brantley Gainey Jr., they are going to get waved around the pace car because they're in front of the leader.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting switch up of what we have been expecting so far this race. Caution flags in the middle pit cycles always seem to shake up the leaderboard for sure. So Cook and Zittel, you know, probably not happy right now with how that ended up panning out for them, because now they got a tough task ahead of them. But the nice thing is,
what is going on here? Schlosser has been waved. The whole field's getting waved around. What in the world is this?
I wonder if this is an administrative call to wave the field around, since the pit cycle got messed up due to the caution.
And they have extended this yellow flag. Hunter Engrave is now behind the pace car and has picked it up as the head of the pacing line. But Schlosser was in the lead. So why did he get waved around? He and, in fact, pretty much everybody got waved around the pace car all the way back to Hunter Engrave in 6th. So the top 5 got an extra wave by. What is this all about?
This is something I don't think I've ever seen before in iRacing, so where the leaders actually get waved around the pace car. So we'll have to see if this is some sort of administrative move to try and fix maybe an issue that came out with a glitch that happened in iRacing.
I don't think it is. Schlosser was in the lead before. I mean, the running order was correct. I don't know why you would make an administrative call like that. So I think that was iRacing doing something. So Engrave now with the lead, and it looks like this is going to be effectively a single file restart, and they're going to let it go.
Wow, we thought that
just
having a pit cycle
green flags out
was going to mess things up, but now it's like it's really confusing on what the heck's going on here. So we'll have to see how these guys can play this out here.
Well, I'm worried that a lot of cars just got given penalties for passing the leaders. The lap car is not allowed to be in front of the leader at the time of green flag like that. They have to be behind him in the pacing line. So Engrave was still showing in 6th. We're now almost a lap down. That may have just shot Engrave in the foot, and they're letting it race. They're not deploying that yellow again.
We'll have to see how this all sorts itself out here in a couple laps, because if anybody was given a penalty, they'd have to serve it here soon. But it seems like just some sort of weird software glitch, maybe from iRacing, or you know, the administration didn't see something and they were trying to get it rectified under this caution flag here. But it's definitely thrown a wrench in how this whole race is beginning to pan out.
No kidding. Now everything is discombobulated. You got a lot of drivers over here that are trying to scrap it out for position. Gainey and Zittel going side by side. This is now the battle for 8th, and they are both a lap down. And this is the battle for the lucky dog spot as well. So whichever one of these drivers is in front, if we get another yellow, will find themselves getting back out onto the racetrack with the lead lap.
Yeah, and they're not going to give up those positions to the guys behind them very easily either, because they really need to fight to stay on that lead lap or get the lucky dog position to get themselves back in this fight. So they're going to have elbows out, and they're going to be racing extremely aggressively to try and recover what's been lost so far.
Battle is on for the lead as well. Brody Gunter trying to hunt down the inside of Matt Schlosser. Schlosser with a drive around the top, and he's going to try to secure that run. Brody Gunter briefly blinking out, had a little bit of a heart attack there, and Schlosser right now being checked up by Rene Garcia.
Again, Rene Garcia is really trying to maintain that lead lap posture, so he's going to be driving defensively right now, which is going to give Schlosser or Gunter the opportunity to make a pass on Schlosser. We'll have to see if he can take advantage of that.
Meanwhile, back behind, Jan Van Leer and Alex Howland both try to see if they can size up a pass to get around Tommy Cook just up the road. The Turn 200 Mustang is showing some good, solid speed right now. Cook starting to swing wide. Howland, Van Leer also in firm lockstep as they work it down the front straightaway and back around to turn number 1.
Working downs through turns 1 and 2 here. Oh, he's got a little bit of a wiggle coming through out of that corner there, which gives the number 32, Poliski, the opportunity to take up on the outside.
And now up the road again, Schlosser on the move, and so is Gunter. They both get around Garcia, and Gunter pointed the bumper to the 400 car that time by, trying to see if he can size up a pass as we enter the second half of the race.
I think Gunter is doing a great job of putting that pressure on Schlosser. We'll have to see if he's able to pull it off here coming into turn number 1. It looks like he's going to wait that time around. So he's going to have a good run coming out of this corner if he wants to get alongside him, as it looks like Schlosser comes to the top side, which is going to force him to the bottom. But no, he doesn't take the opportunity there either as they go through turns 3 and 4.
The one they called the action track for a reason. It has been a non-stop entertaining slugfest this afternoon. There has not been a moment that these drivers have let each other breathe so far all night long. And that includes drivers deeper in the pack as Kyle Zittel trying to see if he can make a run on Rene Garcia to boot. Down the inside over at turn number 3. This, once again, the battle for the lucky dog spot. 53 trying to make a pass on the 74 to put himself into that critical position that could just save his race later on.
Yeah, you have Gainey, Zittel, Garcia, Cook, all these guys right here in a neck-to-neck battle trying to fight for that lucky dog spot. So this will probably be one of the hardest spot battles we'll see all night tonight as Rene Garcia gets a good run going down the front stretch. Going into turn number 1, he gets a nice little run in there. But the 52 did not totally give him that door, so now the 53, is going to be coming onto the inside once again through turns 3 and 4. Here they go, coming out of 3 and 4 down the front stretch, still side by side crossing the start finish line.
Driving around through turns 1 and 2. The 74 still to the inside. They've been side by side for about 5 laps now. They have not been able to break away from each other. Rene Garcia is so good at hauling the mail around the long way. This is unstoppable force meeting an immovable object.
Zittel and Garcia making it an extremely entertaining night tonight for us to be able to watch these two battle it out. They've been really close. It looks like Zittel got a little wiggle, but Garcia also got into the wall.
Just that little tag to the outside fence, and that's going to save both drivers from further incident. I think Garcia has finally settled the grudge match there. As now Andy Poliski, one of the drivers that is on the lead lap, just trying to get himself up and rolling. He's like, come on, guys, I just want to get up there and try to battle the top three. Do I really have to be stuck behind all of you?
Yeah, that's extremely frustrating, being a guy on the lead lap and you got guys a lap down because you were like, come on, man, get out of my way. I got a race to win. And you guys, but at the same time, those guys could be your competitors in another caution or two when they get their lead lap back. So you can't really you got to let those guys race their race, and they're doing a great job at that. As Gunter looks to the inside of Slosher going down the front stretch.
Takes the spot away, down to turn number one. Max Lawson moved up, let him have it. So the Pennzoil number 01 Mustang on to the top step of the podium. 90 to go this time by as racing action continues to tick away lap after lap.
Great job by Slosher there. I think one of the smart things he did for himself is realize that, we got a few laps to go. You don't want to be burning up your tires trying to keep that spot ahead of him, so just let him by. You guys can stack up single file. Two big wiggles coming out of the corner there. Both of them were able to save it.
Zittel and Cook both breaking it outside. Boys, Alex Howland takes advantage and pulls clear around the outside line. Again, it is getting intense as they're going to make that big run. And again off the corner, Rene Garcia sideways. Loses out now to Brantley Gainey Jr., who will take that one around the top shelf.
I think that corner's going to start catching people a little more off guard here as the fatigue sets in, as well as the worn tires and the cool track. So we'll see a few more guys begin to lose it coming out of the corner, but they're doing a really great job of preventing it from becoming a bigger issue.
Quite a few drivers tucked up line astern. Among those is Jan Van Leer. And it goes from incrementals of 2 to 6/10 of a second all the way up to Gainey. It was also tagged onto the back of Andy Poliski, but of course Poliski on a different lap as a result of some incredibly weird shenanigans under caution, courtesy of iRacing. And I think it's going to be a mystery on what went down there for sure.
Yeah, it might be something that the admins have to submit to iRacing for further explanation, because I don't think I've ever seen anything like that either. And hopefully it doesn't really screw up anybody's race because of that incident.
Well, it's shot Zittel and Van Leer in the foot. They were on the lead lap before that, and they're now trapped a lap down. Tommy Cook as well. And those are playoff contenders. Heck, Hunter Engrave is now in a bad way, because he was initially in the lead before that yellow came out, and now he's fighting to stay on the lead lap. I'm telling you, a lot of these drivers are begging for another caution, so that way they can get themselves back up and onto the racetrack by sacrificing the pit stop.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next big thing is if another caution comes out, what's the game strategy going to be here? I think a lot of these guys are going to have worn tires at this point, and you kind of want to set yourself up to have fresher tires toward the end of the run, but you also want to get your lap back too. So it's going to really create a new tough call for these engineers tonight to figure out, how do I put myself in how do I put the driver in the best position to win given the chaos that's ensued tonight?
Starting to close in on that final quarter of the race. It'll be 81 laps to go the next time by. What is it with this track, Richmond in particular, and Iowa, and having weird races? It seems like every time there is some kind of new shenanigan that's going on somewhere. whether it be courtesy of the drivers or courtesy of iRacing. But every time we come here, something happens, and it's almost like Talladega, right? It's not a matter of if something's going to happen, it's a matter of when something weird's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the other things with these tracks too is they are such a fast track respective to the size of the track. So I think that like just throws chaos into the order of things, as when you have a smaller track that's just turning such fast laps, it equals chaos. So it's been a lot of fun to call, but also very confusing to call. It definitely tests your mettle as a broadcaster when you're sitting here trying to figure out who's doing what and how are they going to try and pull it off at the end of the race.
Zittel and Van Leer, the two closest drivers right now, scrapping it out for the last spot inside the top 10. Van Leer, see if he can look around high, cuts back down low out of turn 2. Trying to get that diamond line going to get the run. He does close in a good bit down the straights. It's just not enough to really make that drive up into turn number 1 and 3.
Yeah, Van Leer searching for that grip and that fast way around the track to try and get around Zittel. As the cars begin to wear, the tires begin to wear, it becomes harder and harder to pass. So you got to find that secret strategy that can get you the most grip as possible through these turns as you're trying to find a way around your opponent.
I'm telling you, I mean, this race is a race that could very well decide the course of this championship. I mean, that incident under caution, if it's in a regular series season race, I don't think it's that big of a deal. In a playoff race, though, of all places, the first playoff race in only 3, that is absolutely going to have huge championship implications.
It's almost becoming a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not conspiracy, but it's going to be a buzzword going around, the social medias for this race of, what could have been, because of the fact that the caution was just in such a weird time, and how everything became laid out is going to be a controversial topic for the next couple days around this league.
If you do like the show that you've been watching here this afternoon, be sure to check us out tomorrow night when we go racing for the Beer League. They're going to be out at Circuit Zandvoort, making another trip up to the Netherlands. And I believe their first trip to the Netherlands up at Zandvoort. Of course, the Speed Tires Plus Cup Series will also play host to their to what will end up being their second race with the Chase with Tires Plus Cup at the Charlotte Motor Speedway at 1.5 laps around the ever historic Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then, of course, on Saturday, same time as always, the GG IEL Truck Series will be back in full racing action for the next round of their championship. They are going to be out and racing at what will end up being the Dover Motor Speedway for the No Treads 150. So there's a lot of really tricky tracks this week.
Yeah, there are. And while you were talking about the schedule, Van Leer had a huge loose moment coming out of the corner, smacked the wall really hard, lost a lot of time on him, but it looks like he's going to gain it back here. But yeah, tricky tracks coming up, and that's my favorite thing about iRacing. And as he checks up into the wall again, so Van Leer not comfortable with how his car's handling right now.
I'm not a fan of all the damage on the right-hand side of that number 8. We're going to take another look at this one here as it swings around through 3 and 4 to the front stretch here. Look at how much that right front is caved in now as a result. That is significant damage. That is absolutely going to be damaging the handling of that race car.
I think so. I think his car might be struggling with being tight at this point with how much that right front is going to be towed in from smacking the wall as hard as he did. But amazingly enough, he's still keeping himself right up there alongside Zittel as he comes out of the corner.
He's definitely keeping with him, but the problem that he's got right now is he is not gaining. And I think that's, okay, well, as I say that, he gains a 10th over there in turn 1. But he's got to, I think, get a bit more speed out of that car if he really wants to try and go for the top 10 here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an issue for him, and I think he's. I mean, all of his opponents are a bit of a disadvantage on older tires now. I think when everybody gets out on fresh tires, you're really going to see him struggle to keep pace with the rest of the field, or either that, or we saw something a lot harder than what actually happened on his screen, and sometimes. Those viewpoints from our end end up actually not really translating to much damage on the driver's end itself.
Kyle Zittel being checked up here a little bit by Alex Howland. He's going to shoot to the inside. This is the run for the 9th place. And now the 2 gets into the wall. Nearly bounces back into Kyle Zittel that time by. And that will cause Van Leer to track up almost into the side of Howell as well. There's also the battle on for second as Joshua Hickey trying to go around the long way of Matt Schlosser.
Great job by Hickey to get up into second position with relative ease there. He must have found some really good grip there on that outside line because he made that look easy. And Van Leer is now on the inside of Howland as well. Breaking deep into the corner. Will he push up into him? No, he holds his line really well coming out of that corner. So another one down for Howland.
Howland bumped out of the top 10 once again. He started this race way back at 12. Van Leer, see if he can't try to make a look around the long way as well, and he's going to pick him off. Matt Schlosser into pit road, so pit stops kicking off once again for the Richmond Raceway. And just like the first time, it is that 400 car that is the first into pit road.
Schlosser undercutting again. We'll have to see if this pays off for him. But we're talking at this point. You may have to do one more stop, I believe, at this point. Math is going to be close, I think. So we'll have to see maybe if he can pull it off for the rest of the race here. But the problem is at this point in the race, if you pit so early, your tires are going to be pretty warm by the end of the race. So you're going to be struggling to keep that car up to pace if everybody else has fresher tires. As Rutherford comes out of the pits for the first time tonight.
Corey Rutherford finally coming back out onto the racetrack. He is he's down some laps, to put it mildly. Down 104. I don't think I've ever seen a car down that many laps making their way back onto the racetrack in the Green Flag TV broadcast. So, well, there you go. First time for everything. As Corey Rutherford sees if he can score some extra points. Hunter Engrave looking to get around Joshua Rutherford.
I like that call by Rutherford to come out and try and gain some laps because you're in a playoff battle and you need as many points as you can get at this point forward. So even if he had to come out and gain one position, maybe two, at this point, it probably won't gain any more than one position. But hey, that's one more point that he can have towards the championship. So we'll have to see how he fares out tonight, as it looks like Schlosser's going around to the outside.
Matt Schlosser continuing on his merry way. He has, of course, run it on those fresh Goodyears now, so that's why we see him having so much more pace. This is really risky business, though, for the driver that, of course, was up in the race lead. He is technically battling these drivers for on-track position right now, and that gives a little bit more weight to it, right? Because that means they're even less inclined to let him through.
Yeah, and I think with Hunter Engrave especially, he is not going to give him any room to get that advantage later on for the race, because I think Hunter's going to want to expect to have himself back up towards the front towards the end of this. So he's really going to make him fight for that position as he blocks him up to the outside. So Schlosser has to look down to the inside. I think going through these turns right here, he's going to have a significant advantage, and Engrave's just going to have to give up that position at this point.
So a lot of battles further down in the pack as well. Van Leer making a late call to the pits, and he's not going to make it in. Van Leer tried to take an aggressive entry there into pit road. Didn't manage to get in there in time. He'll have to go around again. Brody Gunter into pit road. Brantley Gainey Jr. into pit road. So more drivers started to kick off on pit stops. I almost thought we were going to have caution number 5 there.
It was very close. Great job by him to bail out of that attempt. I know with that damage on the right front tire, it's probably going to be running a little tight. We'll have to see here if he makes it. Looks like he did, but he looked a little fast. So maybe we'll have to see if maybe he gets a speeding penalty from that. But a much better attempt this time than it was from last time.
Meanwhile, trouble. Brody Gunter around. Yellow flag is out right in the middle of pit stop cycles again.
Here we go again. Another issue that causes the cautions to fall right at the wrong time. And Brody Gunter, obviously the last person that wanted to be the one that caused that caution.
Josh Mahigi, your race leader. Let's take a look back at the replay. So looking like this one starts with Poliski up the road, loops it off the corner. Then you see Brody Gunter fresh out of pit road. Poliski goes around, and then Brody Gunter just minding his business, and then bam, just got clocked in the right rear. Goes for a high-speed spin all the way up into the outside wall in turn 3. Noses it in, and that's a hit that I think he should survive.
Yeah, Poliski coming out of this corner, just a hairy situation because there's not much you can do as a driver. He bumps the wall there, and he wants to get out of the racing line to prevent himself from damaging further. But look, Brody Gunter happened to be there at the wrong time. But Brody Gunter obviously taking the best possible hit that you could possibly want to take in an incident like this, because I think he'll be able to get out of this damage scot-free.
So with that said and done, caution number 5, just shy of 50 to go. We'll be back in a moment. Still under yellow flag conditions with, I believe, 2 laps to green. We are just shy of 50 laps to go. If you're just joining us, welcome to the tape delay broadcast of race number 14 and the first playoff race for the ASRL NextGen Cup Series season. Working our 5th caution of the night. Only 4 remain on the lead lap after that last round of pit stops there, Josh. And, well, Higi, Poliski, Rutherford, and Garcia will duke it out for the win. That was the yellow that Garcia was hoping for. He got the lucky dog, but former race leader Max Lawson not so lucky because he pitted before the yellow came out. He is stuck 1 lap down.
Yeah, it's funny because I love green flag cycles. I think they really have an impact on the leaderboards, but green flag cycles plus cautions in the middle of them puts a whole new ball game on it of complexity, and really it's just almost pure luck at that point. On not much strategy you can do to be able to predict that kind of stuff from happening. The only thing I would say is maybe overcut would probably end up working out in your favor most times out of not, but these guys just unfortunate victims of how the cautions have fallen tonight.
Pace car is off, green flag is back in the air, and we get back to it as the field hightails are back down and then awards turn numbers 1 and 2. Poliski looking for the inside. Rutherford up top. Almost going around. Van Leer does go around. Hard hit into the inside wall for Van Leer. No caution. Will keep it green. But a huge hit into the inside wall.
Nice save from Van Leer as he spins again a little further back. Coming out of turn number 4, he's down again. I think at this point, his steering is probably just struggling for him as he now high-centered himself on the apron. So things from bad to worse for Van Leer after that last caution flag.
And again, no yellow. We'll keep it green. It was way in the back of the field, so there was no caution thrown because nobody was coming up on him. Joshua Rutherford struggling to keep Rene Garcia a little ways further behind. His main contender right now is Andy Poliski, 0.3 of a second up the road, but he's got a lap car in the form of Hunter Engrave in between them.
Great job by those guys to be able to keep it clean out on the track. We'll have to see how it goes coming out of turn number 2 here, as they tend to keep it clean once again.
I believe that should be it for pit stops. We should be good to go to the end. There's also a battle for 7th here between Kyle Zittel and Alex Howland that's picking up for 7th and 8th spot on the racetrack right now. Zittel, of course, 0.4 of a second down, or up from Alex Howland, and Howland trying to make a move as well and nearly gets turned into the wall by Rutherford.
Yeah, it looked like it was really close coming out of the corner there for Rutherford, but he was able to keep it clean. It looks like he might have this time. What? It looks like Poliski's deciding he wants to go back into the pits. Was this from damage maybe earlier that happened, or do you think he's just coming down for some more service?
I think Poliski stayed out on that last yellow to try to see if he could pick up the lead lap, and he was hoping for a caution to come out quickly. It did not, so a gamble that does not pay off for the 32. He is going to be down and into the pits here. I know we say we think a lot, but that's what happens when you have iRacing's timing and scoring, basically jumbling half the field up. But yeah, Poliski had stayed out under that last yellow flag, tried to hope for another early yellow, and it didn't happen. Now Engrave getting around one of his main title contenders, Matt Schlosser.
For these guys, they may not be able to fight for the win here tonight, but they still need to fight amongst each other to try and get the 2nd and 3rd spot respectively on the leaderboard coming into the championship. So you're going to see these guys fighting just as hard as if they're fighting for the win tonight, because with only 3 races, with this being one of 3 races, they don't have a ton of opportunities to be able to get an advantage on their opponents.
Battle for Ford still is on. 40 laps to go at the line. Time is quickly running out as we enter the final quarter of this race. Well, the final 5th of this race, really. And this race has been absolutely insane all night long.
Yeah, when it comes to random, like, I don't want to call it RNG because obviously this is not a random generator, but very rarely do you have 2 green flag pit cycles that have 2 random cautions thrown right in the middle of them to throw off what's been an exciting race so far tonight.
And Josh Higgin right now at the head of the field, he is just logging laps. He is trying to make sure that he is going to be in a prime position to fight it out at the end of this race. I don't think he's too concerned about Schlosser or Engrave going at it with one another around him, because right now they're just battling to try to get back onto the lead lap.
Yeah, the smart call for him right now is to make sure that gap with the guy behind him stays around 3 seconds, because as soon as he starts closing it, that's when it's going to be worrisome if he can lose this lead. But if he can hold it right about 3 seconds from there, he can just coast and let these guys fight their battle for another day. And it seems like he's doing a good job at just that.
Ripping this one down in the turn numbers 3 and 4. Higi way up top, and I think trying to let Schlosser through, and he is going to do just that. So Higi letting Matt Schlosser through. I think realized that Schlosser had a little bit more pace, and he knows that these guys are not going to get back around to him by the end of this race. So he does not want to risk any turn by them. He is more than happy to let them drive away and battle it out amongst themselves.
Yeah, I think the only thing at this point for Higi is, do I keep him behind me in case another caution comes out, because that keeps him trapped a lap down. But obviously he decided it was better for him to race his own race and let those guys through, so that way they could continue to fight to the finish.
Now the only battle left on the racetrack that is within a second of each other is going to be the likes of Kyle Zittel and Alex Howland, scrapping it down for 6th and 7th. We have been talking about these two drivers a lot this afternoon, though to be fair, there's been a lot that they've been doing to try and get themselves on the leaderboards.
Yeah, Zittel and Howland doing really well. I know Zittel's obviously fighting for a playoff spot, and Howland is not, but doesn't mean Howland isn't any more entitled to that position on the track than Zittel. So he's going to try and do his best to give himself the best finish regardless of his playoff competition. So we'll have to see if Zittel finally pulls off that gap to allow Howland. But it looks like Rutherford is just behind Howland, looking to take away or looking to race him as well.
And this even a gap here that is starting to build up to over. Whoa, look out. Joshua Rutherford nearly going around that 64 car, having to scramble to the bottom of the racetrack to keep that thing pointed in the right direction. I nearly thought he was going to be going fully around on the back straightaway. 30 to go. It's not a lot of time left at all. That's, if we run this thing out green, that's going to be like, what, 10 minutes maybe? 10, 12 minutes? It's a very low amount of time to get your laps in here and make those spots happen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a difficult task at that point to make that happen. So just race the best you can with what you got, and then try and chalk up the next one to be, give yourself some momentum to going into the next race.
Gap builds up to over a second, and that is it. No battles left on the racetrack that are too close to each other. At this point, it's more or less a hot lapping session for the rest of the field now, as they try to hunt down whatever spots they can get. I think the battles to watch, you've still obviously got Howland and Gainey. Well, Howland and Gainey, yeah, it looks like Brendan Gainey Jr. actually starting to turn up the wick here. Could we see Gainey make up one more spot? He's gunning for 7th.
Looks like Gainey's driving really nicely right now, and it could be a thing too where he may be driving a little more conservatively to save his tires for the end of the run, because it seems like at this point we're going to be running green for the foreseeable future. So him beginning to close the gap and turn up the heat may be his opportunity to try and gain that final position as we close into the end of this race.
Right now, some of the other battles that could pick up before the end of this race, with A. Garcia trying to close down Joshua Rutherford. The gap right now for them, about 1.4 seconds, although not quite able to make something happen further down the line. But again, not for lack of trying. I mean, these guys have been going at it pretty heavily to try and see if they could get something mustered. And I think Howland could actually be under fire from Gainey here. I mean, Brantley Gainey Jr. is really looking to run this gap down. It's now down to 0.6 of a second. Gainey's closing.
Yeah, Gainey's looking hungry. I can already start to see him peek to the inside of Rutherford as he goes right here into turn number 1 with late braking, going deep into the corner. Got a little bit tight there, but nothing to shake an eye at. But he's able to get past Rutherford with relative ease, and look at that gap he's beginning to close.
Down to just 6.5 of a second, so the gap very much coming down. I think Howland's going to have to start looking in his rearview mirrors here pretty soon, as Gainey is on the march, and Joshua Rutherford looking a little bit more aggressive. I think he might have considered trying to battle back to him.
Yeah, I don't think Rutherford liked getting passed there by Gainey, so he's really trying to catch back up to him, but it looks like Gainey's got his composure back, put down a really decent lap time, and is beginning to sail away from Rutherford. But if he rides that high in turns 1 and 2, it looks like it really gives that chance for Rutherford to gain back on him. So maybe he's going to have to find a new line there in turns 1 and 2 to try and keep that momentum going, because it seems like he's really getting a good run out of 3 and 4. But then when he gets that high in 1 and 2, it really sets him back to where he started. So we're going to have to see if, once again, he gets a little high there in 1 and 2, and Rutherford gets a little loose coming out of the corner, so he's going to drop back.
Continuing to drop a little further back here as the laps continue to tick away. Howland very much under fire. Gandy's got time to make this happen. He's within half a second. If he can continue the up and up, this should be a pass that he is capable of making. I mean, that gap has been closing pretty consistently the last little while. The last lap by, it was looking like Gainey was still a 10th quicker than Howland, and sure enough, he closes that in again. Another 10th faster this time by, down to just 3/10 with 20 to go.
Yeah, I think if Gainey can keep that car pinned down to the closer to the apron through 1 and 2, he's found that line really fast in 3 and 4. So right here is where we're going to see him really be able to close that gap. And it looks like coming out of the corner, he's got a nice tight spot behind him, and he can, if he can pull this off here through 1 and 2, he got a little high again, might lose a little bit of that momentum, but he diamonded it a little late in the apex, which gave him the ability to keep that momentum swing as he goes looking to the inside in 3 and 4.
He tried for it. He tried for the swing, and it was a bit of a miss, but still looking for the inside. He's letting Howland know, hey, I'm here, and I'm ready to brawl. As Brandon Gainey Jr. trying to make that run on Alex Howland, the Valvoline Mustang, up the road. Bit crossed up off the corner, looking for the inside. Sends it down the inside. Here goes Gainey, trying to make the look for 7th. Bodies Howland up the track, and that's going to put the number 10 into 7th.
Gainey really deep on those brakes there. Pushed him tight and almost pushed him directly into Howland. Howland actually had to back off to save themselves from getting in a wreck. But, man, Gainey has got some momentum going on right now. I think we'll see if he can keep those lines nice and tight for these next few corners. He'll begin to take off and solidify that position that he's in right now.
Gainey already opening up a half-second gap over the number 2 behind, looking like he could very well be in a good fight here. Joshua Rutherford, meanwhile, has ultimate losing time. Rene Garcia just poking that gap down to under a second. Could Garcia make a run? At the restart, that gap a few laps ago was up to 2.5.
We'll have to see what Garcia has in store here to be able to possibly pull off a last-second victory, or even a good second place finish. I think he'll take tonight and upset the leaderboard, because he is not in the running for the championship right now, but he's looking to be that guy that throws the wrench into the playoff picture. So we'll have to see. Even with this 3rd place finish tonight, I think he's really going to steal some points away from somebody else as he goes really deep into turn 1 and 2.
And Rutherford gets into the outside wall coming off of turn 2 as well. That's not going to do him any favors. Here comes Garcia. Half a second, still closing. The 420 Motorsports Mustang is on a tear right now, trying to get up to the work in progress racing number 64.
Yeah, great job by him. I think he's trying to search for some grip right now, find that extra 10th or 2 out on the track. Not quite like Iowa where you can wall ride that corner to get a really good momentum swing, but there is 2 or 3 lanes you can pick on this track to be able to give you that extra 10th or 2, depending on how your opponent's tire wear is going, how your tire wear is going, and track temperature.
Only 12 laps to go. Make it 11 now. Joshua Rutherford looking like he started to pick up the pace. Could Rene Garcia be starting to falter here? The gap has been hovering around 4 or 5 tenths of a second the last several laps, but it has not been closing in at all. I wonder now if Garcia has started to catch up to some of that dirty air that Rutherford is throwing up.
It seems like he's lost some of that momentum that he had a little earlier on in the run, but I'd like to throw a scenario that what if we have one more caution here? That's going to put a lot more it's going to put Zittel back on the lead lap, and then it's also going to bring a lot of these guys closer again. It seems like these gaps have kind of fizzled out as the time has worn on, but you put them back together again, and their times are obviously going to start matching each other as they're going to try and race to the finish. So I'll be curious to see if we get one more caution here, what that's going to do to the leaderboard tonight.
9 to go. Coming to 8, and this battle still very much on. For your closing rounds of the ASRL NextGen Cup Series, and for that battle for the number 2 step of the podium. I got to be honest, with how things have been shaken up, I don't know if Garcia's going to get there.
Yeah, it seems like he's stalled out. Actually, he's even lost a second since the last time we talked about him. So it may be a point where he may just not have anything left in the old tires there to get past Rutherford here. Try and gain a little bit more time there on, for that second place position. So we'll have to see with that 7-second gap. It looks like it's even closed almost to 8 seconds at this point. So I think he's just going to have to settle in here, finish his race cleanly, and then take that win or take this podium finish for tonight.
All the while, Joshua Hige now opening up a 7.5-second gap up the road. Hige has been on a tear right now since he took the lead away, and this could be a huge upset. This could result very much in a point swing the way of Hige, considering how Engrave is down in 4th.
Yeah, Engrave's pretty lucky to be in 4th right now, too, with how all that chaos that happened that caused his spin earlier on in the race. So I think Engrave at this point will just be happy with that 4th place finish, and Hige is going to officially take the lead in the playoffs, I'm sure, with this victory, if he can pull it off.
The math is not looking good for Hige as the 099 continuing his big charge up through the field, now up to 8 seconds and coming to 3 laps to go.
I think we're beginning to see how this race is going to finish up here. Unless there's a late race caution, that'll really throw a wrench in this. But it seems like everybody's losing pace on Hige at this point. He's now got an 8-second gap on the guys behind him. So we'll have to see if he can pull this off, and it looks like it's becoming promising for him.
2 laps to go, this time by. Some battle still yet to be decided. Kyle Zittel and Brantley Gainey Jr., they're going to go side by side in that scrap for 6th down in the woods, turn number 1.
Yeah, Brantley Gainey doing a really good job tonight to maintain his long run pace. He's beginning to show his opponents here towards the end of the race and get himself some free positions.
Gainey will successfully take away that 6th place spot. Kyle Zittel, though, trying to send it back down to the inside. We start the final trip around. Zittel trying to battle back to the bottom lane. While meanwhile, Joshua Hige way up in turn numbers 3 and 4. He'll take the first race win of the playoffs for the NextGen Cup Series. Hige to victory lane while the battle remains on for this number 7 spot. And Gainey hangs on for 6th. And then the drag race for 2nd, Hige will keep Garcia at bay.
What a beautiful race we got to experience tonight with all the drama and the chaos that came in between our green flag pit stops, and Joshua Hige proving that he had the strategy to win tonight as a dominant performance over an 8-second lead to the guy behind him. I'm sure he's appreciating all these points that he's going to get from this race here tonight with only 2 more races to go. That win is the way to get the championship.
Taking 1 victory lap around the Richmond Raceway, and now he will get to burn it down to the front straightaway. What a drive for Joshua Hige, able to come home and put the 099 car up into victory lane, as he's going to throw up a smoke show at the action track.
You know, another thing for Joshua Hige that I was super impressed with tonight is he started back near 10th. So he had to climb his way through the field tonight to be able to do that. And here goes Rene Garcia to celebrate alongside with his teammate here at the action track.
Well, they tried for the nose-to-nose burnout. It did not quite go that way. But you know what? An attempt that is indeed an attempt, but an absolutely wild night of racing action here this afternoon. Let's take a rundown of your official post-race results after a barn burner at the Richmond Raceway to kick off the playoffs. Taking the race win this afternoon, it was Joshua Higgy alongside Joshua Rutherford for second. Rene Garcia brings it home in third. Hunter Engrave, after having a really mistimed caution, will have to settle for fourth with Matt Schlosser in fifth. Brandon Gaines Jr. was in sixth, Kyle Zittel seventh, Alex Howland, Tommy Cook, and Andy Poliski all finishing laps down.
Gerald Williams ended up finishing 2 laps down with the nose missing off his car. Brody Gunter ended up finishing 8 laps down with the Ian Van Leer finishing a significant amount of laps down. Nate Morris, Corey Rutherford, and Paul Ellison rounded off your 16-car field tonight.
16 cars started this race, and at the end of it, only 12 ended up finishing at the end of this race. But what a wild night of racing it was here this afternoon. I mean, you take a 2-week break, right? We come back to Texas. The mile and a half track is going to be critical for the championship with only 2 races left to go.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge deciding factor with Texas, and Texas is not very nice to these cars. So I think we're going to see some similar struggles that we have seen here in Richmond. But I think it's, if any sign tonight with the guys that ended up finishing on the podium, Joshua Rutherford and Rene Garcia, Joshua Higgy, I think we're in for a treat, because I think you and I kind of both said in the beginning of the race, we thought this was a Hunter Engrave show that was going to happen so far this season, or in this championship, and so far he didn't even make the podium tonight. So there's only 2 races left, not a ton of time for him if he needs to finish off strong in this season.
For now, we will be taking ourselves with that step back. That's all the time we're going to have for one night here this afternoon from the action track. It was an absolutely wild run, and well, you know what? We might have some extra time here, so we're going to actually see if we can catch up with your race winner here this afternoon. We'll see if potentially your race winner, Joshua Higgy, is available to join us here this afternoon. Josh, this is Nolan Rebel from Green Flight TV. A wild win for you here at Richmond for the Sunday's race. And, I mean, for you, it's critical for the championship. I have a feeling this could be the start of a big title bid. Mr. Higgy, this is Noel Rempel. You got a copy with us? Does not appear that we do. Well, we tried, but Higgy is not going to be able to join us here this afternoon. But it was a very wild night of racing action here this afternoon. With that will now be all the time we're going to have for one afternoon. A bit of a shame we couldn't get a talk with your race winner, but who knows? Perhaps next week we manage to catch up with him. But my name is Noel Rempel alongside Josh Barrett. If you want to find out more about who we are and what we can offer you, check us out today at www.greenflighttv.com. This has been a tape delay broadcast of the ASRL NextGen Cup Series from Sunday night. We'll get set to see you 2 weeks from now when we go racing in the Lone Star State.